Okay, welcome everyone. As we welcome in Irving Fishbaum, Dr. Guy, Yitzi Fuchs, Ben Cian Cohn, Baruch Ian, Mel Zachter, A.B. Spry, Aaron Swade, Marshall Castle, Eddie Chazan, Dr. Udell, Mark Franco, Rabbi Kranz, Shimon Klein, Nachman Chapler, Dr. Black, Berish Gesserman, Naftali Javelin, Moshe Lehman, Yitzi Muller, Dr. Ruvain Guy, David Helfkat on Kol here in the shul, we have Reb Blumenfeld, Gedalia, Reb Kramer, Rich Leonard, Saba, Reb Rosenberg, Reb Ruvain Shannet, and Reb Shloima. What do we have here? 9, right? 9. Yeah. It's Hashem when he comes in. Reb Kraus, he'll be the minion. So we are dedicated by A.B. Spry for our soldiers, for Isuzev Ben Yuta, for the hostages, for the safety of Klal Yisrael. We are dedicated by Shimon Klein, Lila Nishmas Asher Anshem Ben Yehuda, Gittel Bas Shimon Pinchas, Irving Fishbaum, for his Gesund Issa Ben Rezel, and Eddie Chazan has asked us to learn for a fallen soldier, Benjamin Yeshua Ben Amnon. His neshama should have an Aliyah Hashem Yinkum Damai, and we'll learn for Reb Rosenberg. Rabbi Yitzchak Moshe David, Ben Baruch, very sweet man. We really enjoyed the schus, the privilege of having him here when he came here. Yeh Zichrei Baruch. We are holding at the new Mishnah on the bottom of Lamed Aleph and Beis, and we already know the major players over here is Marshall and A.B. Spry. They already.
A.B., are you ready?
What happened to A.B.? Oh, he's here.
Yeah, I'm ready.
Yeah. So anyway.
Okay, let's do it.
So anyway, you shouldn't be too excited, Marshall.
I'm always excited. What's the problem?
Yeah.
Especially when we're picking that stuff up in public without a glove. I'm really excited.
Okay. Now, so what happened over here is Zeba b'chavitai. In the first case over here is they're walking facing each other in a head-on collision. So Zeba b'chavitai, A.B. comes with his barrel, v'zeba b'kairasai, and Marshall comes with his beam. Nishbara kadesh shel zeh b'kairasai shel zeh, and A.B.'s pitcher or barrel breaks from Marshall's beam, potter, because each one was walking with permission on 13th Avenue. Nobody over here did something wrong, and therefore, in a rare instance of exoneration, Marshall is not chayav to pay. But now, what happened is as follows. Marshall was walking in the front with his beam, Obal Chavius Achron, and A.B. is walking behind him. Nishbara Chavius B'kaira. So if A.B. just plows into Marshall, hey, A.B., watch where you're going. Potter. That's not Marshall's fault. Marshall's walking, minding his own business, and A.B. picked up the speed because, he wants to make it in time for the shear, and his pitcher breaks, Marshall is Potter. So in that case, Potter Balakaira. However, V'im amad balakayra, but if Marshall decided to stand to rest in middle of 13th Avenue, then chayiv, because now Avi didn't know that he was going to stop, and he plowed right into him. Marshall misbehaved, and therefore Marshall is chayiv. However, if Marshall turns around and he says, Avi, halt, I have to rest. If he turns around and tells Avi, Amoid, stand, slow down, I got to rest, potter. Now, here, let's switch it around. If Avi is walking in the front, for those that are just joining us now, in progress, we are holding 2 lines from the top of Daf Lamed Beis Amud Aleph, as we're having a lot of late arrivals as we welcome in Michael just coming in, Shalom Fogel just coming in, Reuven Pollack, so the Ilya Shutman. So here in this case, if Avi with the barrel is walking first, Ubal Kaira Akron, and Marshall is in the back with his beam. Nishbra Chavius Bekaira, if Marshall plows into Avi, you can't rear end somebody. If you rear end somebody, you're going to be chayiv. So Nishbra Chavius Bekaira, if Marshall plows into Avi and breaks his pitcher, chayiv. However, Vim Ahmed Bal Chavius, but if Abi suddenly stops, how is Marshall supposed to know that Abi in front of him is going to stop? If Marshall suddenly stops, Potter, then Marshall is Potter. However, Vim Ahmed Bal Kair, if Abi turns around and says to Marshall, Amoid, halt, I have to rest, then chayiv. Then, in such a case, Marshall would be chayiv because he should have stopped. Now, just like we have a case with a pitcher and a beam, we also v'chein zebab b'neiroi v'zebab b'ishtanai. If Abi has flax and Marshall has a fire, so the same halachas would apply as with the beam and the pitcher. Now, the Gemara opens up the discussion in a very interesting way. Boy minei Rabba Bar Nosson Ravuna. Rabba Bar Nosson acquires of Ravuna. Hamazik es ishtoi betash mishamita mau. Here you have Chatzkel is being intimate with his wife Shpinza, and in the course of intimacy he gets rather excited and he breaks her ribs. So does he have to pay? Do we say, well, it was consensual, came under Berushus Kavit, since, they were 2 consensual adults, he did it with permission, Potter. More, perhaps we say, you should have been careful. You shouldn't break the ribs of somebody that you're trying to be nice to. And here comes our minion. I'm not singling out anybody, but it's a good time as any to alert people to something. We have multiple shiurim here. We have Gemara shir, then I go to a Mishnayos. Some people already heard the Mishnayos. I have a Mishnayos, then I do a Chok shir. Some people don't stay for the Chok. Talking in the hall disturbs me, disturbs the Zoomers, disturbs the camera. You have to talk, go upstairs, at least into the garage.
Yeah.
Be quiet, Marshall. There's another problem, and I find that this is a problem with talking in shul also. it's not somebody's fault. There are many times that people who are older, they don't have such acute hearing. And they don't realize that their talking disturbs people because their hearing is not so sensitive. So they talk and they think it doesn't bother people. It really does bother people because they're younger, their hearing is stronger. And there are times that I tell people, you're making noise. I'm not making any noise because their hearing is not so sensitive. So first of all, do not talk in the hall when there's a shir going on. That's number one. It's a good idea in the morning that when you come into shul, you shouldn't be talking in the stairwell. People are sleeping, and when you talk in the stairwell carries through the whole house. So, this is we'll see, we're going to learn in Bava Kama Daf, this is all Hilchos Shcheinim. This is normal Hilchos Shcheinim. People don't realize this. People go outside, they honk in the night. They don't realize this is all basic Hilchos Shcheinim. Anyway, and I know people don't realize it. So again, the question is, if when he's intimate with his wife, he breaks her rib, is he chayiv? Do we say since it's consensual, he's doing a bereshus, he's not chayiv? Or do we say he should have been careful? So Amalei Tanitua, we had the case where Marshall is walking in the Rishus Rabbim, Abi is coming at him. The Gemara says, they're potter. They're potter, and we don't say that Marshall should have looked where he was going. Amalei Tanitua, Shalazer Rishus Lalach, Shalazer Rishus Lalach. They both have permission to go. Amar Rava, so Rava says, it's a kal v'chomer. Umayar, in a forest. The case of where a person goes into exile for killing somebody, shogeg, is where he's in the forest with the person that he inadvertently killed. Umayar, shezel rishusay nichnas, v'zel rishusay nichnas. Each one came into his own domain, because Chatzkel has the right to be in the forest, and Shmuel has the right to be in the forest. So each one is his own domain, and yet we say that if he gets killed, then Chatzkel has to go into exile. We view it as if Chatzkel entered into Shmuel's domain. The Chayiv, here, where the husband entered his wife's domain, her body, like Koshche. The Gemara wants to say that the husband is definitely Chayiv. And our Mishnah says they're both going Bereshus. Says the Gemara, Hosam travayu kadodininu. When Marshall is walking in one direction and Abi is walking in the other direction, they're both on equal footing. Here, by the husband, he's not on the same footing as his wife. He's active and she's passive. Like the Gemara says, Esther karka olam. She didn't do anything. Why am I not getting charged here? Esther karka olam. the woman is passive. Hacha iu covered Maisa. He's doing an action, he like. So the Gemara says, yeah, but by the Isurei Arayis, the implication is that the woman does action too. Vihilai, she isn't a active participant. When it talks about a man and a woman that engage in a forbidden relationship, it says that they should be cut off, the souls that do, ha'isais in the plural, which implies that they both are active participants. So over there interprets Gemara, osos does not refer to active participant, it refers to hana. Hana l'travayu isla. When the pasuk is giving chorus, it's because they both have pleasure. Iu maisahu dekavod, but he's the only active participant, so it's different than the case where Marshall and Abi barrel into each other. There they are on the same footing, and therefore, since it's Bereshus, they're parted. But here, since he's the only active participant, Ibayale liyune, and therefore we say that he is chayiv. Now, Hayabal Kaira Rishon. Let's get to the case over here where we said that Marshall is walking in the front, Abi is walking behind him. So, in that case, if Abi plows into Marshall, Marshall is going to be potter. But if Marshall stops and Abi's utensil breaks, so Marshall deviated, and then he's chayiv for Abi's pitcher. So we're going to quote the famous case of the two cows. Marshall's cowing around, and this is mamish everything. You're perfect for the role.
As usual.
Yeah, perfect for the role. Amarei Shlakish, Shtei Parais Bereshus Harabim. There's two cows in the Reshus Harabim. Achas Revutza, Marshall's cow, is sprawled on the ground in the Reshus Harabim, which is a deviation. Not supposed to be on the ground, sprawled. And V'achas Ma'aleches, and Abi's cow is walking. But Mahaleches Berevutza, if Abi's walking cow kicks Marshall's cow, Patura, he's potter, because Marshall's cow had no right to be on the floor. Revutza b'mahaleches, but if Marshall's cow kicks Abi's cow, Revutza b'mahaleches, if Marshall's cow kicks Abi's cow, chayeves. So we see that since Marshall's cow is not supposed to be on the floor, and if he kicks Abi's cow, he's chayiv. So the Gemara says, Lema Messiah. Let's adduce a proof to the teaching over here. Marshall's walking in the front with his beam, and Abi is walking with his pitcher behind. Nishbara chavyas b'kaira, if the pitcher breaks in the beam, potter. V'im amad bal kaira, and if Marshall stands, so he deviates, chayiv. So the Gemara says, this is a riot to Reish Lakish. We see that when Marshall deviates, he's chayiv. So here also, where Marshall's cow is on the ground, and he deviates, and he kicks Abi's cow, he's going to be chayiv. Zavahacha, the kiruvutza b'mahaleches dami. It's like the one that's Marshall's cow on the ground kicks Abi's cow, v'katani chayiv. So the Gemara says, v'tizbara hasayabai. You think this is a proof to Reish Lakish? Loy mistaya de loy misaya, not only is it not a proof, elamikshanami kasha, it's a difficulty. Because the implication is, why is Marshall chayiv? He's only chayiv because his cow kicked Abi's cow. Time of debata. It's only because he kicked the cow. Hohuska memela, if Abi's cow tripped on him, potter. But why? In our Mishnah, La Masnisan de Memela, our Mishnah just says that if Marshall stops and Abi bumps into him, so Marshall didn't do anything. He didn't kick him. He didn't swing the beam. He just stopped. And it says still he's chayiv. Amam asnisin the memela v'ktani chayiv. Says the Gemara, you know why? Because in our Mishnah it's talking about masnisin. Says the Gemara, masnisin the paskal urcha keshilda. In the Mishnah, Marshall with his beam is blocking the entire road. So there's nowhere for Abi to go. That's why he's chayiv. But over here, Marshall's cow is only lying on one side of the street. Hacha kegain de rava b'chad gisa, on one side of the street. So if he was only lying there, then he's not culpable if Abi's cow trips on him. Because Abi's cow should have gone around him. He should have gone around with him. And therefore he's only chayiv if he kicks him. Ella, if we're going to bring any proof to Reish Lakish, the proof we're going to bring to Reish Lakish is different. Ella seifa de masnisa messiah leila Reish Lakish. It's the latter part of the Mishnah that's a proof to Reish Lakish. What's the proof? Diktani, hayabal chavyus rishon, Abi is walking in the front with his jugs. Ubal kaira achroin, and Marshall is walking behind him with the beam. Nishbara chavyus b'kaira, if Marshall rear ends him, chayiv. V'im amid bal chavyus, but if Abi stops suddenly, then potter. So the Gemara says, so you see that if Abi stops suddenly and he deviates, Marshall is potter. And that's what we said over here, that if Abi's animal is walking and Marshall's animal kicks him, when he's reclining, he's butter. It's like Abi's animal is walking, Marshall's animal that is reclining and deviates kicks him, Viktani butter. So the Gemara says, I'm sorry, but there's no proof to that. In our Mishnah, you know why Marshall is butter? Because Abi stopped. Marshall had no idea that Abi was stopped, so he walked right into him. But the reason why Marshall is potter is only because he walked into him. If he swung at him with his beam, he wouldn't be potter. So why over here? Okay, Marshall's animal shouldn't be sprawled on the ground, right? So if Abi's animal trips on him, there we could see. There we could see. Excuse me. If Abi's animal walks on him and hurts him, there we could see that he's potter. But what gives Abi's animal right to kick it? And that's what the Gemara says. It says the Gemara. Masnisan dechi urchei kam maske. Our Mishnah that says that when Marshall walks into Abi with the beam, when Abi stops, he's pottered. That's because he's walking normally. Hacha over here, why can't AB say why can't Marshall say your animal has the right to walk on my animal that's sprawled on the ground, but who gives him the right to kick it? Says the Gemara, no, it's not a good raya. In the Mishnah, he's walking normally. But over here, Marshall could say, look, you're right. If your animal would walk on my animal that's reclining on the ground, there I could see it's potter. Even if it was a muad, there I could see it's potter, because I had no right, my animal had no right to be strolled on Rishus Harabim. Amalei nehei dislach rishkus l'skuya, like to walk on me, but levuute be less lach rishus. You had no right to kick. Why should you be exempt if you kick? Now the Gemara doesn't answer this. The Rishonim say, as we welcome in Pesach Zigelman and Yitzi Muller for our 30th and 31st Zoomer of the evening, Sandy Grunfeld, it's good to have you. Yoshua Tubis, it's good to have you. Shaya Bassman. The Rishonim say that what Abi's taina is the fact that your animal unusually is laying down in the street made my animal meshuga. And that caused the animal to kick him. So that's why the svara is of Reish Lakish that Abi should be potter even if his animal kicks. As we welcome in the Kupfer family, Judah Kupfer, it's good to have you. And Marshall, I would get busy, 20 more Zoomers. For a man that likes bourbon, it should be an easy thing. Now.
I'm on the way I can pull by my cow. It's lying down in the middle of the street that AB tripped on.
Okay. When you get busy cowing around, get to work.
Green grass grows all around.
Now, the new Mishnah, for those that are joining us, we're at the new Mishnah towards the bottom of Lamed Beis Amud Aleph. I always like to say this is a great daf, the daf of hearts, the daf of Leiv. I always like to say, it's a favorite vert of mine, that we always wish a chassan and kal, they should make their house into a mikdash ma'at. The difference in gematria between bayis and mikdash is 32. Right? Bayis is 412, and mikdash is 444. The difference between that is 32, which is the gematria of Leiv. Because if you want to convert your bayis into a mikdash, you have to have heart in it. And if that's true for a regular bayis, then kal v'chaymer, a mikdash ma'at, this is a two-valley stream. But if you want to make two-valley stream into a mikdash, so then when everybody is heartsick with one another, so then you convert a bayis into a mikdash. It's a very true word. Now, Shnayim shoyim alchem b'rishus harabim. If two people are traveling in the Rishus Harabim, echad rotz, Marshall is running, the echad mahalech, and Abi is walking, oishayu shneim rotzin, or they're both running, they're ziku zeh, and they damage one another, shneim peturin, they're both potter. So of course, the case where they're both running, that's because they both weren't behaving. So since they both weren't behaving, we can't give liability one more than the other. But why, if Marshall is running and Abi is walking, why is Marshall off the hook? So the Gemara says it's going according to Isi ben Yehuda, and it's talking about right before Shabbos. In other words, a little bit before Lichtin, and Marshall is running in order to be in time for L'chadaydi. That's a permissible running, near the Foladah, says Hashem, and therefore that's why he's potter. So we'll see this. Let's see how this plays out in the Gemara. The Gemara is going to introduce this idea to us as we Marshall is now 31 Zumas. You're only 19 away from bliss.
I was thinking more like wild turkey.
Okay, wild turkey is good. So, says the Gemara, Masnitzin do like Isi ben Yehuda. Our Mishnah is not like Isi ben Yehuda. The Tanya, Isi ben Yehuda, I'm a rotz chayim. If Marshall is running, then he's chayim because he's acting in a deviant behavior. Isi be'erev Shabbos bein hashmoshes, but Isi also admits that if it's erev Shabbos at twilight, right before Shabbos, Shu Potter, Mibnei Sheratz Bereshus, because he's running with permission in order to make it in time for L'Chadaydi. Amar Rabbi Yochanan, halacha ki Isi ben Yehuda, that halacha is like Isi ben Yehuda, says the Gemara, but Rabbi Yochanan holds like a Stam Mishnah. In our Stam Mishnah, it says that Marshall, if he's the only one that he's running, is Potter. In our anonymous Mishnah, it says if one is running and one is walking, or they're both running, Peturin. So you see that if Marshall is the only one that's running, he's still Potter, and we don't say that he's acting in a deviant behavior. Says no, Masnisin be'erev Shabbos bein hashmoshes. The Mishnah is talking about Friday night. And that's why if he's running, he's Potter. How do you know that the Mishnah is talking about Friday night? Oh, because otherwise there is an internal contradiction in the Mishnah. If they're both running, they're Potter. Now, if our Mishnah is talking about during the week, if even one is running, he's Potter, then if they're both running, it surely should be Potter. That if even only one runs, we say that he's Potter. If they're both behaving the same way, do we need to teach that? If one is running and the other one is walking, it's Potter, but that's only that's only where he's running Bereshus in order to make L'Chadaydi. If Marshall is the only one running, he's the one that's deviating. If they're both behaving poorly, if they're both running, then afilu b'chol peturin. Amar, let's just examine this business about running Friday right before Shabbos. Amar, isi be'erev Shabbos bein hashmoshes, right before Shabbos sets in at twilight, because on Shabbos itself you shouldn't run. It says, Im toshiv mishabbos raglecha. If you withhold on Shabbos your feet, a person shouldn't run on Shabbos. I was never fond of my children running or sweating on Shabbos. It was unpopular that I didn't allow them in hotels to play ping pong on Shabbos. And I told them, you're good ping pong players. You run from side to side. You sweat. That's not a Shabbos activity. It's not a Shabbos activity. It's fun. It's fun. But it's not a Shabbos activity. It says, Im toshiv mishabbos reglecha. So, says the Gemara, my bereshus ika. What reshus? Kid Rab Chanina. The Amar Rab Chanina, as we turn the page, the Amar Rab Chanina, Bo v'neitzei likras kala malkasa. Let us go out. Let us go out and greet the Shabbos queen. Let us go out and greet the kala malkasa. Now you have to know the reason why the Shabbos is called the Kala is based on a medrash. The medrash says that Shabbos went to complain to the Rebbeinu Shalom Sunday as Monday, Tuesday as Wednesday, Thursday as Friday. I'm alone. So he said, don't worry, Klal Yisrael yiyeh bazukcha. Klal Yisrael will be your mate. And that's why we refer to the Shabbos as a kala. So, they're very interesting midrashim. Another interesting medrash, it said in davening, we refer to Shabbos as chemdas hayomim, the desires of the days. What does it mean that Shabbos is chemdas hayomim? So there's a fascinating medrash. The medrash says that the days came to Hashem and they said they needed a king. So the Medrash says that there used to be 6 days of 28 hours. So each day donated 4 hours. So now, instead of being 28 hours, they're 24 hours. And they made 4 times 6 is 24. So they made a 7th day of 24 hours. So that's Chemdas Hayomim, the desire of the days. But anyway, V'imrei law, others say it's not enough to say Kala Malkusa, so you should say Shabbos Kala Malkusa. V'imrei law Likras agreed, Shabbos Kala Malkusa. Reb Yanai misate fekoi. Reb Yanai would wrap himself up in a talis or in a robe, Shabbos-dik robe, v'amar, and he would say, boi kala, come bride, come bride. Now, getting back to Marshall's lunacy.
Which one?
It's too many. Hamavakeya b'rishus harabim. If Marshall is chopping wood in the Rishus harabim, and a splinter shoots out, v'hizik b'rishus hayachid, and he hurts somebody in the Rishus hayachid. Or, B'rishus hayachid, he's chopping in his own backyard, v'hizik b'rishus harabim, and a splinter goes out and damages someone in the Rishus harabim. Or, B'rishus hayachid, he's doing it in his yard, v'hizik b'rishus hayachid achar, and it damages someone else in another yard, chayiv. Reb Shlomo. You know what, before you leave, maybe we'll say a Kaddish. Yes. So that's okay, we'll say a Kaddish. It's Divrei Agadita, so. Chanani min HaKash, Amar Ratz HaKadosh Baruch Hu L'Zaka Yisrael L'fi K'chib L'em Torah Mitzvahs Shenam Adonai Chavetz L'man Tzidka Yadol Torah V'Yadeh. Amen. Amen. Yesh mei Rabba mivarach lo lam lo me'el ma'ayo yisbarach. Yisbarach v'yishtabach v'yispar v'yisrabah v'yisnasei v'yishador v'yishaleh v'yishalol shnei v'kusha b'richu leila min kol b'chasa v'shirasa tush b'chasa v'nechem asa damiron b'yoma v'yimru amen. Amen. Al Yisrael v'aravonon v'al tamideyoi v'al kol tamidei samideyoi v'al kol mandos m'raisa Yasar zeh al-Zavazar Yehei lo ha'inu l'choyin shlom b'rabba Chira b'chizav rachamim V'chayin ha'richin v'zer v'chei Ufakona b'kedama goyin l'shmaya V'yamru amen Yehei shlom b'rabba min shemaya V'chayin aleinu v'al kol Yisrael V'yamru amen Amen. Okay, now the third case in the Mishnah is where Marshall is in his own backyard, b'rishus hayachid, v'hizik b'rishus hayachid achar, and a splinter flew out and damaged chatzkel in his backyard, also chayav. So we have 3 scenarios, and the Gemara right away says b'tzricha. We need all 3. Why? The Itanam of Akabarusha Sayachad Behizik Berusha Sarabim, where he's chopping in his backyard and it damaged someone in the Rishus Harabim. Yet there, he should have understood. Hey, what are you chopping towards the Rishus Harabim? You shouldn't the Shchicha Rabim. There's a bunch of people there. Aval Rishus Harabim, Rishus Hayachad, but where he's going from the Rishus Harabim to a private area, The loishchike rabbim, nobody's there. Hey, malay, I might think he's not chayiv. The iton, if it only says the case Rishus Rabbim, Rishus Yachid, where he's shopping in Rishus Rabbim towards the Rishus Yachid. Yeah, of course he's chayiv. What's he doing? You're not allowed to chop wood in the Rishus Rabbim. Mishim de meikar shalei b'rishus of it, because he's doing without permission. Aval Rishus Yachid, Rishus Rabbim, when he's in his own backyard, the b'rishus of it, he can do things in his own backyard. Hey, malay. The iton anach tarte. And if it says from his backyard to the Rishus Rabbim, or from the Rishus Rabbim to somebody else's backyard, from his to the back to the Rishus Rabbim, you can't chop towards the Rishus Rabbim because there's a lot of people there. And from the Rishus Rabbim to a private domain, that's because he has no right to be in the Rishus Rabbim. Where he chops from his backyard into somebody else's backyard, there's not a lot of people there. And he's doing it with permission in his own backyard. I might think he's not chayiv tzricha. Then in all three cases he's chayiv. Tan Rabbana. So now, what happens over here is Marshall is a carpenter. So hanichnas l'chanoisei shel nager shaloi b'rishus. Chatzkel comes into a Marshall's carpenter shop without permission. It's after hours. You know, they're ready. It says the sign on the door says closed. And Chatzkel comes in without permission. And you know, Marshall is doing some work. V'nitze bikis, and a log shoots out, v'topcha al panav, and hits Chatzkel in the face, umeis. And Chatzkel dies. Remember, Marshall was closed, and he had a closed sign on the door. Potter, Marshall's potter. V'im nichnas b'rishus, but if Chatzkel rang the bell, and Marshall said, come in, then chayiv. Now the question is, what's Marshall chayiv for? It was an accident, so he's not getting executed. He'll be here for another day, right? So he's not getting executed. Shalom, don't look so sad. He's not getting executed. He's not getting executed. So, my chayiv. Says the Gemara, well, he has to pay, remember, Odom Muad Lailam. So although he didn't mean to do it, he was just chopping, but a man is always responsible. So I'm Rabbi Yosef Reb Chanina Chayev B'Dalad Dvarim. He's chayev for damages, ripui, medical, shevis, temporary unemployment, and tsar. He doesn't pay for humiliation because he didn't have intent. He didn't even have an intent to do damage. Forget about intent to humiliate. He didn't have any intent. However, potter megalis, but he doesn't have to go to the Yarei Mikla.
What's the fourth thing? You said three.
Nezek, tsar, ripui, shevis, and baisus. Damages.
Oh, sorry.
Now, but he doesn't have to go to the Yarei Mikla. Now, why not? He killed Chatzkel b'Shoigeg. He should have to pack up his bags and go to one of the Yarei Mikla, one of the cities of refuge. Says the Gemara, Lefisha einoi doima liyar. It's not similar to the case of the person that was unwittingly killed in the forest. Yar, zel reshusay nichnas, v'zel reshusay nichnas. In the forest, each one came into their own domain. They had both the right to be in the forest. However, over here, in our case, Zel Rishus Chaveiroi Nichnas. Here, he entered into Marshall's domain. So the Gemara says to the contrary. If he entered into Marshall's domain, Marshall should be extremely careful because he invited the guy in. Says the Gemara, Amarav Kal V'chaymer. Each one entered independently. Still, Nasa Kamisha Nicholas Ladas Chaver, it's as if you invited him in. And Vigaila, Zeshel Ladas Chaver Nicholas, here where Marshall invited him, and therefore should surely be careful. Lloyd Kol Shechain says, well, no, we don't mean that Marshall's action is less than a shogeg. We mean that Marshall's action is karev lemezid. It's close to being premeditated. Because since he knew that the person was there, there's more of an onus for him to be careful. He invited him in. He brought him into his security. Says the Gemara, Alama Rava, my potter megalis. What does it mean that Marshall is exempt from exile? He doesn't get the kapara of galus. He doesn't deserve it. And the reason Rabbi Yosef Chanina is potter is mishum davlei shoygeg karav lemezid. It's close to a mezid. Because you invited him in, you should have been careful. Masiv Rava, so you mean when it's karav lemezid, there's no ori miklat? Masiv Rava, hoysef leiritzua achas umeis. If the Bezdin assesses how much the Russia can take. Here's a person that flagrantly wore shatnez after he was warned. So Bezdin has to give him 39 lashes. But a doctor assesses how much he could take in multiples of 3. So they decided that this person could only take 26 lashes. So if the Shliach Bezdin gives him 27 and he dies, he goes into exile. Says, well, what do you mean? If they assessed 26 and he gave 27, that's Karv Lamezid. He should have known that if they only assessed him at 26, if he gives an extra one, he's going to die. Says the Gemara, Amrav Shimi Minarda, the Toy Biminyana. He made a mistake in the counting. He thought he was holding by 26. Made a mistake in the counting. Says the Gemara, Tafakle Rava Besandale. Rava gave him a slap with his sandal. He doesn't count. One of the Dayanim count. Amalei Atuhu Mani. Does he count? Vatanya Gadol Shebedayin Dayanim Kairei. The senior Dayan, there's 3 Dayanim, the senior Dayan reads from the Pasuk, V'hifla Hashem es makosecha. Hashem will make wondrous your punishment. V'asheni Maina, the second senior judge counts. V'ashlishi Yamar Hiko, and the third one says, hit him. So how can you say you made a mistake in counting? He doesn't count. The Dayan made the mistake in the counting. Now, the Dayan doesn't go into Gullus because the Dayan didn't hit him. Then why should the one who was giving the lashes go into Gullus? It wasn't his fault. The Dayan made a mistake. So the Rishonim say over here, the fault was that since it's somebody's life, he should have been mentally counting himself also. And since he wasn't mentally counting himself, that's considered a shogeg. It's not Karv Lamezid, but that's considered a shogeg. So now the Gemara gives us another case. Meisvei. Hazoyrek Kesa Evan L'Rishus Rabin. If, let's say, Marshall throws a rock into the public domain, the harag, and kills someone, how is that Goyla? So Gemara says, Goyla? That's Karv Lamezid. Who throws a rock in the middle of 13th Avenue, on Central Avenue, on Main Street? He should have thought the Rishus Rabbin, Shchicha Yinche, and the Rishus Rabbin people are there. And it says that he goes into exile. Says the Gemara, Amar Shmuel by Yitzchak b'soiser es koisloi. It's talking about when Marshall had a bad wall, and he was dismantling the wall into the Rosh Hashanah and killed someone. So the Gemara says, well, that's also Karav Lamazin. You should have checked if anybody was there. Says the Gemara, B'Saiser B'Layla. He was dismantling it in the night. So the Gemara says, and people don't walk in the night? B'Layla Nami B'Layla Yunei. Says the Gemara, B'Saiser Es Kaisel B'Yayim La'ashba. He was dismantling it straight into the city dump. Now, the city dump was used also as a bathroom. So, if they used it as a bathroom even in the day, then Mezidhu, he's a Mezid. It's murder. And if people don't go during the day because it's light outside, then Onesu, it's an Ones. People go to the bathroom in the night. They don't go during the day. But when somebody really has to go, they go during the day. There are those that sit there when they really have to go. So it's not amazing. It's not even Karov amazing because people don't go there during the day. Why? Because you should know that if a person really has to go, he'll go there. And therefore it's considered a shogeg, and he goes to the Arei Mikla. Now we're going to do the Mishnah Yomis now, Rabbi say.